Replayability. It is probably the most important aspect of a video game. Replayability is how much and how often you can play a game before you become bored and switch to something else. What separates a good game from a great game is when you can just play that game over and over and over again without ever getting bored. Bungie used to be the masters of replayability with their Halo games, but with Destiny they seem to have lost what makes a game replayable. With this video, I want to explore how Halo games are able to be played for months and years on end without any new content besides some map packs, and then I will examine how Destiny fails to replicate this in their games. First off, let's explain what made the Halo games so replayable. Halo's replayability comes from three things: mission design, enemy design, and the weapon/ability sandbox. These three aspects of replayability all work together to give each playthrough of a mission or multiplayer session a different experience. Missions in Halo are designed with many different encounters and many different tools to engage these encounters. For instance, a mission might put you up against an elite, 2 jackals, and 5 grunts. This is just a fairly average fight, nothing too special. This fight will play out differently based off of a number of different factors. For instance, if you pick off the jackals first, the elite will lead the grunts in a charge towards your position. Or you could take out the elite first, in which case the grunts will turn and flee, while the jackals will fire on you from behind their shields. And this does not even talk about how the weapon sandbox affects these gameplay moments, because if you have no plasma weapons, then it would be better to take out the non-shielded enemies first so they will not bother you while you focus on the shielded enemies later, or vice versa. Another option would be to take a different path and avoid the enemies altogether, or you could explore the mission to search for hidden weapons and ammo caches, which are hidden all throughout the levels, which can make each playthrough truly unique as you find a hidden power weapon that you did not know was there before. This will allow you to approach fights with special advantages, because each weapon in Halo has a purpose, and when used for that purpose it feels amazing, which allows different playthroughs of the exact same campaign mission to play out drastically different. Because I can promise if you play through a mission with a assault rifle and pistol, it'll be a hell of a lot different than say a plasma pistol and sniper, just because the weapons work substantially differently and they drastically affect how enemies fight you and how you fight the enemies. This allows every fight in Halo to feel meaningful because you must come up with unique strategies for each scenario and you are rewarded differently for doing so. Every fight you must decide what weapons you want to use, where you want to start the fight from, what enemy you want to start with, and what your backup plan is in case you get overwhelmed. This leaves so many things that can play out differently in a Halo mission, such as what weapons you find, what secret paths you find, how many allies you keep alive to help in your fights, and so many more variables that allows each playthrough of a mission to feel fresh and fun and unique. Now let's see how the three aspects of replayability, mission design, enemy design, and weapon sandbox work together in Destiny. Well, to sum it up, they don't work well together at all. Enemies don't react differently to different combat scenarios, missions don't have any secrets or unique ways to approach encounters, and the weapon sandbox is much worse than in Halo. Because while Destiny has many more options than Halo, there's never any reason to use one weapon over another, especially one that's not considered meta. I mean, in every PvE encounter, I could go in with an assault rifle and shotgun and never feel like I am at a disadvantage or that I should be using a different strategy. In Halo, as I previously said, every weapon has its purpose and every weapon excels at that purpose. In Destiny, that's not really the case. Many weapons overlap with other weapons and are worse at things than other weapons are, so they're honestly redundant. Like, for instance, a sidearm, most sidearms in the game aren't anything special, and you'd be better off with either an SMG or a shotgun. Like, they're one of the most redundant guns in the game. Same with a scout rifle. There's never a time where you need to use a scout rifle in the game, where a pulse rifle, hand cannon, or assault rifle wouldn't do better. This leads to every mission in Destiny, from the smallest lost sector to the largest raids, playing the same, because Bungie cannot get its enemies to act intelligent and cannot give their weapon archetypes a unique reason to exist. Because, as I just said, scout rifles are useless for basically every encounter. Fusion rifles are underpowered and are basically, outdone by every other special weapon. Especially compared to shotguns and snipers, there's no reason to use a fusion rifle. Rocket launchers are useless in almost every encounter, and so on and so forth. There's so much redundant weapons in this game that never get any use because they don't have a defined purpose. This all causes Destiny to become very repetitive and boring to play, and this is reflected by when people get enjoyment in Destiny. Because it's not when they're playing the game, it's when they receive good loot. Loot in Destiny is the only thing that gives the game replayability, because the loot that gets dropped from an activity is the only thing that changes from playthrough to playthrough. This causes players to spend less time enjoying the game and more time abusing the game to get the best rewards. This leaves players enjoying the loot more than they enjoy the game, which leads to things like account recovery services, where people pay others to grind out content on their accounts. And notice how I said grind. That word is typically associated with hard, boring, and repetitive work. Why would anyone want to play a game where that word describes most of what you do? Because due to Bungie's inability to create engaging, fun, and replayable content, players are more focused on obtaining good loot than they are at actually enjoying the game. And this extends to literally all aspects of the game. I mean, think about basically every event in Destiny. They're not fun to play. Like, no one sees the dawning come around who's like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to bake some cookies and give to everybody. Because that's just not fun. People only do it because of the fusion rifle. No one does it for fun. Literally, I think the only thing people play for fun in this game are dungeons, raids, and the Crucible. Nothing else is played for fun in this game, and for a game that has so much content, that is a huge shame, and it falls entirely on Bungie's inability to make that content fun. Because the Crucible has shit for loot. Like, I'm sorry, it's one of the most unrewarding activities to play, but it's one of the few things that's actually fun and replayable, because different weapons actually have different uses in the Crucible, and so players get a unique experience different times for playing with different weapons. Like, there's actually an incentive to use different weapons in the Crucible, because you're actually rewarded for doing so. Now, obviously, you can be put at a disadvantage for using certain items in the Crucible, but that's like a trial and error. You actually find that out. It's not like in 99% of the PvE content in this game, where you can literally walk in with any gun and completely mop the floor with everybody. And if Bungie wants to fix this problem, they need to completely revamp their mission and AI design to create encounters that dynamically change depending on how players approach them. Like, if you're shooting at somebody with a scout rifle, there should be people pushing you to try and force you to do something else. Or if you're trying to rush with a shotgun, they should, like, have people teleporting back to shoot you with snipers and shit. Like, the missions and AI should be dynamically responding to how the player plays them, instead of just having all the enemies stand there and shoot every, like, 30 seconds and miss half their shots. And until Bungie can make that change, players will continue to grind this game for loot, instead of play this game for enjoyment. But that's all I have to say for this video, and if you liked it and want to see more like it, please like and subscribe so you don't miss my next video, and until next time, goodbye.